Hi everyone, this is Raina. So this video is for those people who have their natal Mercury squaring or opposing Saturn. And I went back and looked at my chart because I was pretty sure that I had the square, and I do. It's not that tight of an orb. It's about 8 degrees, so perhaps other people have it more intensely. But I can see some of myself in some of these attributes. I don't know if you'd call them attributes when they have like more of a challenging like note to them or tone to them. And it's important to note that even when you have challenging aspects in your chart, that if you rise to the occasion and you take up the challenge, you can overcome these things. The square, for instance, is a frustration or a feeling of a blockage, an obstacle. And, if you decide to work on that aspect of yourself, that can result in something really amazing because you're pouring your energy, your intention into it, as opposed to somebody who says, okay, this is hard, I'm giving up, I'm just going to do easy stuff. Or, you look at an area of life where things just come very easily. Maybe if you see your chart, you have trines, and you can just kind of be lax about it because it's not even really coming to your attention, since it's something that comes naturally to you. So you can have underdeveloped talents. And when you have these challenges, it kind of, I wouldn't say it forces you, but it at least forces you to acknowledge it. What you choose to do with it is another story. And because of the nature of this particular, these two aspects, the square and the opposition from Mercury to Saturn, because it can result in negative thinking, it is a possibility that the person will say, oh, I can't do this, because they will decide that it's too difficult or even impossible. So Mercury is how we communicate. It's also how we absorb information. And I would say a really good way of looking at it too is the mindset. And, the more I think about Mercury, the more I think it's a very important component in our overall life. I sometimes focus on the sun or focus on even some of the heavies that are not personal planets, like, Pluto, and how it has an effect on our chart, in terms of the house placements and what have you. But certainly, Mercury, the mindset, can really influence us. And because Mercury is close to the sun, is so close to the sun, it can't be like in your opposite sign, for instance. It can't be far away from you. However, it's not necessarily going to be in the same sign as your sun sign. And in those particular cases, I think that can be an important fact to take a look at. Let me give an example. For instance, let's say your sun is in Pisces and your Mercury is in Aries. Well, you may have a very, you may have very blunt speech, even though Pisces is known for sensitivity. And because of that, that can create a bit of confusion in terms of who you are, because people may, hear things before they really see you. And, that's just how it works. We don't really know the core person, especially when we're first meeting them. We don't know what they're really about, and what they say is really important. So in terms of this combination, this can lead, and I'm thinking, a lot of this I'm going to be talking about is the square. With the opposition, I'll just start with the opposition. With the opposition, there's going to be, just to boil it down to its core. uh, See, now here's my Mercury square Saturn kicking in. Maybe it's because I just woke up. But at its core, I would say that Mercury opposing Saturn is having poor communication skills. And that I want to say too, though, that I don't believe that it's that deep or serious if you, let's say you are, you have a Mercury in Gemini, Mercury in Virgo, Mercury in the fire sign, where you, in an air sign, where you have like a lot of pizzazz. I think that that's going to be a lot less. I think you're going to be the most challenged if your Mercury is in earth and water. That's just my own personal opinion. With the earth, it may be because the person really is taking personally that, or being sensitive about the communication. So if your Mercury's in Pisces, really feeling that personal, subjective judgment. Let's say you have Mercury in Pisces and Saturn in Virgo, and really just being that inner critic. That's a big part of this, the inner critic. And then for the earth signs, it's more to me of being kind of drab, dry communication, technical. Earth signs are interested in things, mechanical, technical. I was thinking of, practical, but it can get in the weeds, because it's something that if it doesn't have a little bit of spice to it, people can see it as very plodding kinds of communication. Now, going back to me and my experiences, it's really funny because when I do these types of recordings, I have my partner go into the other room. I tell him, okay, you're there, I'm going to be here, something like that, because I don't want anyone, I'm like very self-conscious about it. And he will say, well, it doesn't matter. I can be here. I can wear headphones. But it's like, I feel like the scrutiny. So you may feel like when you speak that other people are judging. And so with the opposition, it's always going to be a projection. It's always going to really be about like, what does the other person think? What is our back and forth like? But even with the square, because I notice when I am speaking to someone, I'm not talking about like right here where I'm kind of talking to myself, but when I'm talking to another person, I can feel that inhibition. And that is certainly true of Saturn, that it's can be inhibitions, because Saturn is a planet that is associated with restrictions and delays. And so there might be stuttering that you have dealt with. Stammering, stuttering, I don't know. I think those are considered the same things. Problems with hearing. There can be problems, maybe especially with the opposition, with concentration, where you have a hard time when you're listening. Because remember, Mercury, this is about also how you absorb information, how you like take it in, that's why I guess that's absorbing, process information. It's all of those things. So there can be some kind of thing where like there's attention deficit issues. And that creates the inability to really sustain your concentration. Now, before I continue, I want to say something good about this combination, because regardless if you have an easy aspect like a trine or sextile, or a difficult like or you could say the easy would also be the conjunction, or challenging square opposition, the bottom line is that you are like somebody with Mercury in Capricorn. It may be afflicted if you have these challenging aspects, but the good thing is that you may take education seriously. And sometimes this can lead to overcompensation, I think, or what they say. And by the way, I wish I would have had those sites. I used a couple sites to get this information down. And oh, well, thank you to them, whoever they are. And so overcompensation, meaning that the person tries to get all these degrees so that they can seem like they are knowledgeable. And whenever somebody is overcompensating, it's obviously because they're insecure, because they don't feel like those things, and they want to prove it maybe to themselves, to the world, especially with the opposition to the world. Like you always have to prove, the opposition is, okay, I need to give this to others, The square is that frustration. And, whenever somebody is overcompensating, there's going to be problems with the other person that you're dealing with. Okay, so if you think about somebody who may have grown up low income, who vows to themselves that they are going to make a boatload of money as an adult, and they go around and they're always bragging about their possessions, they're always showing them off, the other person may feel like turned off to that. And so it's not something that they are going to really accomplish what they think they're accomplishing. They may actually be their own worst enemy in that area. So the same thing applies here, is that if the goal is to communicate, and especially to communicate things maybe in methodical ways, in things that have concrete substance to them, because Saturn is all about foundations and, it's very practical, realistic. But if the person isn't doing it for the right reasons, if they're doing it to make themselves feel better psychologically, or to boost their self-esteem, it's not going to have the desired results. So, there has to be that a real awareness of what the end game is. So, one of the sites that I went to, boy, I wish I could remember what it is. They said that it's about the inner critic. Okay, I looked it up, and it's the astrologyplacecom. It's really a great resource. I recommend it highly. And obviously, this doesn't just come from nowhere. It comes usually, we can say, from the parents being overly critical to the child. And that creates that inhibition and also that self-doubt. Also, in terms of the parents, there may be a lot of pessimism, a lot of negativity that is expressed. So this, again, is where I think it may differ as to how it plays out for the different signs in Mercury. So if your Mercury, like my Mercury, as well as my sun sign, is in Sagittarius, and Sag is known as being a positive thinker. So it's not to say that there can't be negativity with that aspect having Mercury in Sag, but that it is more easily pushed back upon and overcome because the person can see the negative trap that provides, And I would say the same thing for other signs. Sag is known for expansiveness. Now, the air signs can be detached, and so they have the ability to be more objective and not allow somebody else's messages to just totally sink in. I think that, for instance, the water signs are particularly vulnerable because they take things very personally. They're very sensitive. And when I say water signs, I mean you could have the sun in Aquarius, and you might have Mercury in in Pisces, for instance. So your sun sign might be actually in air, but if your water sign if your Mercury is in a water sign, so we're talking about Cancer, Pisces, and Scorpio, it can also give you a very good memory where it's very hard for you to like not to forget about those kinds of um, negative messages that you received that really cut to the bone sometimes. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible. And so they mention doing affirmations. They mention like if you have the opposition and you feel like, but I would say the same thing with the square, because that even the frustration can really get to a person, is to work on a long project that sustains your concentration, like a book. Or if I would also say, like, if you have like a lot of knowledge in a particular area, creating a course, like those online courses where other people can take advantage of it, and you don't have to necessarily verbalize it. You can spend your time in solitude, doing things at your own pace and not feeling that pressure to have to communicate it to other people who could possibly criticize or whatever, that even if it's an imaginary sense of a critic, that being in that solitude can bring out the best in you in terms of your wealth of knowledge. So looking at your thoughts, do you have a tendency to be pessimistic? Do you have a tendency to think the worst? What do you say about your life? Your words are your prayer. So what are you saying? Using affirmations, rewiring your brain. And that can all, there are methods to do that. I'm very interested in that, just because I love this idea of rewiring things, our thoughts and things. And also there are things like nonviolent communication. There's a new book, and I can't think of the name. I don't know if it's called Conscious Speech. I'm not sure what the name is. I'm going to have to check that out. But it's like being very conscious about how you phrase things. And I do think, because I have I have read Nonviolent Communication, and I was what I get a little bit concerned about is stilted speech, where you're being unnatural because you're trying so hard to be positive, or you're so self-conscious about what you're saying that you're not being genuine. Actually, these hard angles to Saturn from Mercury can result in stilted speech, where you don't really communicate in a very like flowing sort of way. And again, I think it's that inner critic that is constantly stopping you. And when I reflect upon myself, now here I'm kind of just flowing, but when I am talking to somebody else, I am like totally, I'm talking about somebody that's not, very close to me. I am very overly cautious and things like that. And I feel very inhibited. But there are other things that I have going on with Saturn. Sun square Saturn, things like that, and moon opposing Saturn. So that can lead to a lot of self-consciousness. And there's a tendency towards cynicism. So look at that, but also black humor. So, people who are Capricorns have a tendency to have a very dry sense of humor that can be a bit on that cynical side, because they see, the Saturn part of it is noticing the limitations of people, places, and things, and trying to make light of it. And yeah, yes, I mean, perhaps there is some good to that, but you have to watch out that it's not too much on the black side, the dark side of things, because then it's less humor and more negativity. Um, let's see what else. Watch out how you talk to people. Are you too technical? Do you say things that would go over their head, that are dull, and you're just like droning on and on? It's funny because it seems kind of contradictory, because if people are that self-conscious, you'd think they would be afraid of doing that. But I guess in some cases, the person's kind of clueless, maybe. So anyway, I think I'm going to leave it there. Somebody requested this, so I thought I would, I don't think I would have done this on my own, so I'm glad that I was able to do this. Remember that even with your challenging aspects, you can overcome them. The first step, I believe, is to accept yourself as you are and know that um, you are valuable, that you are a a good person, and that you have the power to change your life. So take care, everyone. If you'd like a private reading, the link is below. Thanks for listening. Bye.